Hello everyone, and welcome to day 5 of our week of wellness. We've gone through 4 practices already, and the last ones were sort of more static, more sitting still. Today we're going to be moving again, although in quite a slow way, not necessarily a soft way, but a slow one. So what we're trying to do is bring in the idea of stillness into even kind of stronger poses, and kind of practicing the idea of staying in a slightly uncomfortable place and having the patience to stay there, which I think is, well, a very important trait to just have in life generally. The sequence in itself won't be very complicated, but we'll take our time with the poses. So we can actually start straight in a downward facing dog. We'll tuck the toes under, you can press the palms down and then lift the hips up. To start with, you can find a little bit of movement here. Maybe bend one knee after the other. Keep pressing the mat away from you. Pushing the sitting bones up towards the ceiling. And once you've taken a few rounds of movement, or a few rounds of breath of movement, and once you've moved for a few rounds of breath, can you then come into stillness in your down dog? Maybe feel the lungs up all the way. You might feel the back round slightly. As you exhale, can you press the heels closer to the mat? And then stay here. The breath is constantly there, even if the body, the rest of the physical body is static. The air is flowing and it's creating a sort of fluidity into the postures. Keep hugging the triceps in as you push the mat away from you. And if at any point you feel like your mind is wandering or your mind is fighting against this shape, that you want to maybe drop out of it, can you bring your mind here and remind yourself that your body is actually much stronger than what your mind tells you. With our next inhale, we'll reach the right leg up behind us. Lengthen through the leg, keep pressing the mat away from you, and then open through the hip, bend the knee. Keep guiding the right knee up towards the ceiling. And breathe. Keep engaging through both arms, shoulders. Keep guiding the right knee up. We'll extend the right leg straight, and then hug the knee in towards the chest. And step it forward between the hands. Good. You can first lengthen through the spine and then start to rise up with your inhale. As you exhale, drop a little bit deeper into this shape. Guiding the left heel back behind you, can you reach the arms up? And again, even though we're staying still in this pose, can you let the air flow, not restricting it? Come back to the breath anytime you notice your mind wandering. We're going to take an inhale here, lengthen the spine. As you exhale, bring your hands back onto the mat. Then we're going to kick off of the left foot, come into a standing splits. So extending the left leg back behind you. You can keep your fingertips on the mat, or if you want to, you can also hug your right shin in with your right hand. Keep engaging through the left leg. And breathe. Both legs are strong. Maybe there's a micro bend in the right knee. Feel free to do that. Take an inhale. As you exhale, drop your left toes to the back of the mat. Plant both hands down and step the right foot back as well. Meeting your plank pose for a moment. So keep pushing the mat away from you, maybe slightly protracting through the shoulders. Strong core, long line from the crown of the head to the heels. And then from here, we'll go through a vinyasa. You can either bring your knees down or keep them lifted, slightly pushing forward to lower down. Upward facing dog or cobra. Open up through the chest to get that length in the front body. And then push back into your downward facing dog. Good. Take a breath there before we move to the other side. Good. And then with your next inhale, the left leg lifts. We bend the knee, open the hip, guiding the left knee towards the sky. Press the mat away from you through both hands, opening up through the hip a little bit more, opening up through the hip a little bit more. And breathe. Then extending your left leg back behind you, you can square through the hips. Start to hug the left knee in towards the chest, step it forward between the hands. Rising up from here into your high crescent lunge. Maybe drop a little bit deeper as you exhale. Can you find comfort even in those feelings or moments of discomfort? And maybe sink a little bit deeper. Take an inhale here, we lengthen. And then the hands come down onto the mat. We kick off of the right toes, coming into a standing split on this side. If you want to, you can use your left hand to hug the left shin a little bit closer. Keep your right leg engaged all the way to the toes. Maybe with a slight bend in the left knee to bring yourself closer to the mat. And again, breathe. We take an inhale here. And then drop your right toes back as you exhale, coming into your plank pose. Keep pressing the mat away from you. Good. Pause here for a moment, breathing. Meet the shape, engage through the core. And then shift forward, either with the knees down or lifted. Chaturanga all the way onto the mat. Upward facing dog or cobra. And then finally a downward facing dog. Good. Take a breath in your down dog. Find length in the spine. And exhale out. With our next inhale, we reach the right leg up behind us again. And then exhale, hug the right knee in towards the chest. Step it forward between the hands. Now turn your left heel behind you. Cartwheel the arms up into a warrior two. Long arms. Can you widen through the chest and drop the shoulders back and down? Bending the right knee towards the right toes. And also the back leg is active and strong. Keep pressing both feet evenly in towards the mat. And imagine almost dragging the mat towards the midline. So squeezing through the left inner thigh, the right hamstring. With our next inhale, we drop the left hand down. Reach your right arm up to reverse this warrior. Lengthen. And then come back through center. Now drop your right elbow onto the right knee. Left arm reaching over. Coming into your extended side angle. You can find a different variation here as well. If you want to drop your right fingertips onto the mat, extending the left fingertips up and over, you can do that too. And then drop back into the breath. With With our next inhale, we come back through center. And then we're gonna turn the left heel in. You can heel though the feet a little bit closer to each other so that you can find a goddess pose. Hands come to heart center and pause here. You might even want to close your eyes for a moment, guiding the knees towards the toes, making sure they don't fall towards the center line. Let's sink here. Maybe sinking a little bit deeper, see how that feels for the hips. And allow yourself to actually experience the discomfort if it's there. Your body can take it, for sure. Your body can take so much more than what your mind tells you. And then you can extend the legs out, turn the heels out a little bit more, and simply fold over the legs. Releasing your goddess pose. And breathe. Take a few breaths here. Just simply fold it over. Allow the legs to release, to relax. And then we're going to walk our hands towards the top of the mat. Step back into a plank pose. Pausing here for a moment. Then going through your vinyasa. This time we're going to pause in our upward facing dog or cobra. So whichever variation you're in, can you take a moment there? Allowing the inhales and the exhales to flow. Engaging through the back body, pressing the mat away from you, peeling the shoulders away from the ears. And then exhale. Find your downward facing dog. Good. And then from here, lift your left leg up as you inhale. Exhale, hug the knee in towards the chest. Step it forward between the hands. Right heel turns and we lift up, coming into our warrior two. Perhaps adjusting the stance to make sure your left knee is over the ankle, pointing towards the toes. Right leg is also strong. Not forgetting about that. Engaged through the core. Maybe slightly move your weight back as we often start to lean forward here. And then with your next inhale, drop your right hand down, reach the left arm up, keeping the legs as they are. And then come back through center. Elbow moves onto the knee, right arm over. Or if you want to go deeper, feel free. Focusing on plugging the outer edge of the right foot down to find length in the right side body. Squeezing the feet a little bit closer to each other to engage through the inner thighs and the hamstrings. And then we rise up from here, coming through warrior two. You can bring the toes, the heels a little bit closer to each other, ending up in your goddess pose with the heels turned in, hands at heart center. Maybe drop a little bit deeper, see how that feels. Feeling the fire in the legs. Can you stay with it? Breathe through it. Even if your mind tells you to give up, stay with it. One more breath in. And then you can straighten the legs, turn the heels out, and simply fold over the legs. Good. You can take an inhale here, lengthen the spine. That might feel really good. And then exhale, fold over. Find your way to the top of the mat. Both hands down. meet your plank pose before moving out of it. Shift forward. And then come into your upward facing dog or cobra. Stay there for a few breaths. Take one more inhale. And then with your exhale, push back up into a downward facing dog. Take a full breath in. And open the mouth. Exhale out. Beautiful. With your next inhale, you can reach your right leg back behind you. And then as you exhale, hug the knee in towards the right wrist and find a pigeon pose, sliding the left leg back behind you. And we've done quite a lot with our legs today, so we're going to give them a bit of a release to finish. You can first straighten out the spine. Make sure your hips are comfortable here. You can use props under the right glute if you like. And then exhale, find your way back onto the mat, maybe coming onto your forearms, on your belly. And finding that stillness here too. Even though you might not be engaging a lot, might be a different kind of discomfort if your hips are tight. It's a theme we focus on a lot in yin yoga. Being able to stay with the discomfort of the deep, deep opening of the body. And it's very hard to stay present, to not fidget around, but to just stay still in the pose. Much harder than we expect, and something that we don't get to experience a lot in our lives because we've got so many things to engage with constantly. There's so much entertainment and so much stimulation around us all the time. So coming into these spaces of just being, of almost being bored, is actually so rare and also so valuable. We'll then find our way back onto the hands. You can tuck the left toes under and simply step back into a down dog. And then switching sides, we lift the left leg up, inhale, and then hug the left knee in towards the left wrist, sliding the right leg back. Good. Just checking with the legs first, with the hips that you're comfortable here. And then you can start to come down onto the forearms or the belly. Try to soften. Try to sink a little bit deeper. Can you stay super present with the sensations that might arise? Also noticing the breath. And then you can start to gently push yourself back up onto your hands. Now bring your weight onto your left glute. Swing the right leg forward. We're going to keep the knees bent and roll all the way onto our backs. Keeping the feet close to the sitting bones, we're going to come into a bridge pose from here. So pressing down through the heels, we'll inhale to lift the hips up. If you want to, you can interlace your hands behind the lower back to get more of an opening for the shoulders and the chest. And then keep pushing down through the heels. Keep squeezing the knees a little bit closer to each other to prevent them from flaring out. And then can you stay here? Final challenge for the lower body. Final challenge for your mind. And even if you don't want to stay any longer, can you stay a little bit longer? Take an inhale. And then slowly release the hips down as you exhale. You can hug your knees in towards the chest. Maybe gently sway from side to side. And then we're going to release our feet onto the mat and finally find a Shavasana. So our final resting pose of the practice, where we rest our whole body long. Now this might not be challenging for the body, it could be. But more often we find this to be challenging for our minds, which is a completely different kind of challenge. And it might feel almost like a waste of time to just lie here doing nothing, because it's not efficient, it's not productive. What are we really gaining from it? But actually there's so much value in letting yourself be in moments of stillness, even letting yourself get bored. And the hardest thing about these poses where we just stay still and there's no real challenge really, is to keep our minds present, to keep ourselves grounded in this moment. And that's what we always try to do in Shavasana as well. Cultivate that awareness of the body, of the different sensations, of the different emotions and thoughts. Noticing them and then just letting them be. Resting here in your Shavasana for a moment longer. You can then start to find gentle movement in the body again. Maybe take a deeper inhale in through the nose and sigh it out. Find any stretch that might feel good at this point. And then finally, we're going to drop onto one side. And then from there, push all the way back up into a seat. Find a long spine. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. And pause for just a breath. Getting ready to move out of your practice and into your day. And see if there's something from this practice that you might want to take with you into your day. Bring your hands to heart center when you're ready. And then bow your head towards the hands. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me for today's practice. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got 2 more practices to go, so I really hope I see you here tomorrow as well. Thanks.